Thanks for joining us on I Met Jesus. This is where we are exploring the lives of some people in Scripture who encounter Jesus Christ and they walk away changed one way or another. You can't be neutral when you encounter Christ. We hope that you learn a lot from the podcast, and we hope that it challenges you and what your encounter with Christ is like as well. Welcome to the Crossroads Podcast. I'm Jason Collins here with Wes Barnett.
Why are you doing that voice?
Here with Wes Barnett. Wes.
Yes, Jason.
How do you feel about Cooper Flagg playing big boy basketball for the Dallas Mavericks for Game 1?
The
This
worst
is the gaslighting.
the worst double-double in the history of rookie debuts.
Oh, gosh.
That's what I think.
It was not great.
He forgot how to play basketball for a night. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll be okay.
I mean, of the two of us, one of us is an optimist when it comes to sports, and then there's
Jason.
You.
No.
Wait, no.
I am the self-proclaimed Cowboys optimist this offseason.
No.
Yeah.
I'm the Cowboys optimist.
You're the Cowboy realist.
No, I've become optimistic. I'm the one.
No.
Gone on.
No.
I've been more excited.
No.
You can't deny that.
No, but yes, I can't deny that. But you also declared we were worse with CeeDee Lamb, and that is not optimistic. So, the end.
Well, that's a reductive explanation of my take about CeeDee Lamb.
But it is an explanation.
It is true. It is accurate.
It's not true.
Well, no, I'm saying it's true that I made
Oh,
this statement.
Yeah.
And it also is true. Crystal, how are we doing over there? Okay.
Crystal's good.
She panicked me.
Yep, me too.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, a lot of stuff's been going on lately, Wes. How are things going with you and the family?
We're good.
Yeah. How's Wyatt doing?
He's great. He still doesn't sleep in his bed. But
Okay.
one day he'll sleep in his bed.
One day he'll sleep in his bed. Is he walking?
Not forever. No.
Is he
but
talking?
He does say dad a lot.
Oh.
But I think that's because that's all he can say. I don't know that it's because he knows who I am.
Y'all don't. Does she not like just work on the mom?
He does that too, but we weren't going to talk about that.
Oh.
We were just going to be like, he only says dada.
Why?
Yeah, because it's me. That's why. But yeah, he's saying some words and babbling, and he screams a lot.
Okay.
It's been a good
Who
time.
did you learn that from?
Doing great. Not me.
Okay.
I'm one of the quietest
Wait.
people I know.
So you saying, Caitlin?
I'm saying that she comes from a loud family.
Okay, let's make sure we get the Hogans on here. We want to make sure that we.
They know.
Okay, I feel like it's very important. I know we're going to talk about some interesting things today, but I think it would be a great.
Interesting things.
I think it would be.
You're going to talk about some interesting things today, guys.
Yeah, what was your wife's first impression of you?
Why are we talking about it?
I just
we
thought it'd be
already
fun.
did I Met Jesus West edition.
That's not I Met Jesus. That's I Met Caitlin.
She
That's a
liked
whole
me.
nother podcast.
I assume she liked me. She stuck
Where did she see you at first,
at a coffee shop
and in what context?
at a young adult event, and I was running around a parking lot, running from you, which is similar to what I want to do right now. Run away.
You were running yesterday too.
I wasn't running yesterday. I wanted to run yesterday. Jason, so we got a fancy coffee machine at church.
Getting ready for our Christmas series. We're gonna do some fancy coffees for you guys.
We got a fancy coffee machine at church, and we're testing it out for Christmas. And we have a resident barista. His name is Jason Collins. And I think he made 37 lattes yesterday. I got latte, I think
My heart
one.
was pounding so fast.
Yeah, I think I got latte one.
It was extra strong.
It's really strong. And by about 10 o'clock, I was ready to go run sprints on the soccer field. Just to be clear, I did not run sprints on the soccer field.
I was in my office literally going, why am I sweating?
Well, that's because we keep the office at 75 degrees.
When did that happen? Because it's been freezing in our office
know.
for years, and suddenly it's warm.
It's because there's some people on staff that always think it's cold. So,
Old people. Oh, Crystal
Crystal.
declaring from the
Deanna.
cheap seats over there. And Deanna.
Mhm.
Okay.
There's a thermostat war that happens in the office.
Who's it between?
Crystal, Indiana, and Wes and Shelley.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is that right now you're losing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's cool. Well, today, Wes, I'm
Today.
gonna turn this over to you. You're
Well-
running the show today.
I'm not. Well, where's Kevin?
I don't. Who knows? Who knows?
I feel like that's
he's
when I'm not on the.
busy
Hold
with
on.
work.
Hold on. When I'm not on the show, when I'm not on the podcast, we do a whole bit about where I am.
I know.
Kevin doesn't show up, and there's nothing.
Why? Why? What is this? Look. Okay. Where do you want to say that he is?
He's working. That's literally where he is. He's just at work. He's busy at work.
Okay.
Anyway, I met Jesus today. Jason Collins
You
edition.
met Jesus today, guys.
I'm not the host of the
I'm
show.
so excited. Wes now has met Jesus as of today.
We are on a podcast called I Met Jesus, and
Oh,
today
there we go.
we're going to talk about how Jason Collins met Jesus.
Ooh.
So, and then we're going to walk through some of your life and talk about how you've seen God move
All right.
throughout your life.
So you got questions?
I have some prompts.
Okay.
They're not all questions.
Okay.
So,
There's statements.
talk to us about your life growing up, Jason. That's where we're going to start. Give us some background on your family. Where'd you grow up? How did life begin?
I was born in a hospital at an early age to be near my mother. I- so
I'm really trying to do this well.
I was born in Irving, Texas, right down the street from the old Cowboy Stadium, and that no longer exists. And my dad was working ultimately he ended up at Exxon, but I think he was with us some sort of a smaller subsidiary down in the oil fields of South Texas. He had to go down there for work. Dad found out when Mom went into labor, Dad had to burn rubber to get back up here. I was the second child. I mean, it was a quick process. They were like, my mom always said I've been in a hurry my entire life, and that started at birth.
Not today, to get in a hurry to start the podcast.
Okay, well, all right.
Start this part of the podcast.
But I've got an older brother. He's 10 and a half months older than I am. And I've got a younger sister who's 10 years younger than I am. So I don't know if I terrified my parents or what, but I'm the middle child, and they didn't have another kid for a long time after they had me. No, growing up, we grew up in church. As soon as I was born, a couple weeks later, we moved down to South Texas, lived in Baytown, went to Wooster Baptist Church, and I grew up there. Cool church, great people. I remember doing stuff as a kid. I remember just always being in church. Mom and Dad were heavily involved. And so, all of our friends were, for the most part, church folks. Mom and Dad were big into community. Mom and Dad are pretty extroverted, outgoing people. They love to be active. Even to this day, Dad still likes to be active, and I'm sure Mom's doing some sort of craft expo in heaven right now, getting ready for Christmas or something. But they both love to be super active and engaged, and so grew up. Went to Sunday school, and which I just want to say, I think sometimes Sunday school gets a bad rap. I don't.
Why do you think Sunday school gets a bad rap?
I think it shouldn't have been called school, first of all, because that just doesn't sound fun at all. But, growing up, I wasn't always excited about going to Sunday school. But today in my life, I'm super excited that I went because I had such a biblical education that came from, at least in the church I grew up in. They taught us the Bible. They taught us to memorize Scripture. Bible stories were mostly familiar to me. And so I thought that part is great. I was discipled as a child, and then ended up in like RAs, which was like a
Can you explain that for people that don't know what RA is?
like a Royal Ambassadors. I was like a Christian version of Boy Scouts. Anyway,
I was in the non-Christian version of Boy Scouts, turns out. So
okay, there you go.
it's called Boy Scouts.
When I was 7, I walked down front.
Were you still at like Wooster Baptist Church?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I was there until I was, high school.
Okay.
I
didn't realize that.
Yeah, we were in that church my entire young life, and so they
7 years old.
I was 7 years old. I walked down front, and I remember our Pastor Gil McKee, which weirdly he influences my life today in a lot of ways because
Tell us how.
I'd grown up. Pastors were like these it was like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and your local pastor, and you kind of like revered them, and they were almost like borderline perfect as they worked for the Lord, and that was just the way we saw them, and so they were nice people, but I never expected to have a personal relationship with like my pastor, and when we hired Brother Gill, I remember he came over to Mom and Dad's house. My brother and I were playing on one of the most elite gaming systems that have ever been created.
Let me guess. Hold on. Nintendo.
Yes, the original Nintendo NES system. We were playing Duck Hunt.
I love how you thought there that I was going to say something different.
I did. I thought you were going to say Atari, and I was like, no.
No, I don't think you're that old.
Well, I did have an Atari,
Yeah,
but
well, so did I. But
NES was legit.
Yep.
So we were playing
Duck
Duck Hunt, and we were sitting on the floor.
That's the game where, just for the young people out there, you had a fake gun that you had to put on the screen, essentially, to shoot the ducks on the screen.
They called it what it is. You hunted ducks.
Yeah.
In a video game, and a dog laughed
with
at
a
you.
plastic gun against the screen.
And a dog laughed at you if you missed.
Right.
And in those days, we didn't have these televisions in every room of our house. You had one TV, and that's what the family watched, and you watched what Mama and Daddy wanted to watch.
So everybody was watching Duck Hunt.
And I was the remote control. Dad would go, change the channel, and you turn the big rotary dial. But we put it on Channel 3. Dad would let us play the video games. And
Channel 3.
Yep, Channel 3 is how you play the video games. And so we played Duck Hunt. It was fun. And we were sitting on the floor, and the pastor came in, and he saw what we were doing and immediately dropped down into the floor between my brother and I. And played Duck Hunt with us for a while. Like Dad just kind of waited for him to get done. And I remember thinking, that's cool. I don't know if I'd ever been that close to a pastor before. But cool. I remember him preaching a message, and he was just super relatable, and I understood what he was saying. And at 7, I felt God call. I just felt like the response that I needed to do was to give my life to Jesus, and at least as much as I understood at 7, which wasn't a lot, but I knew Jesus died for my sins. I knew I was a sinner, and I knew I wanted to be saved. And so I walked down front, and Brother Manuel Cerruti, who was one of our deacons in the church, got with me at the altar. He was a big influence in my young life, him and his wife, Rosa, and he walked me through basically what we used to call the Roman road, just walked me through Scripture of what it means to be saved, and which I loved even to this day. Like, I mean, they had the little cards you filled out, but he wasn't satisfied with me just checking a box, and he followed up with me for years after that, just to check on my walk with the Lord. And so there was a million things I didn't understand, and I would say, so I gave my life to Christ, but I didn't fully understand what surrender looked like until many years later.
Yeah, I think that's true for so many people. It's like, I don't know that I know truly what surrender means today, right? Because surrender today means so much more to me than it did 10 years ago, and then 10 years before that. So I think that's part of the journey of Jesus, right? It's like, as you walk more and more with Christ, you more and more fully understand what surrender means. But at 7 years old, you surrendered your life to the degree that you knew what surrendered meant.
Yeah.
Cool. So you live in Baytown up through high school age, and then somehow you end up back in the DFW area. What is that? How does that happen?
Well, so before...
Because it's important because you meet somebody that you
It is.
really love
It's
when you
very
get there.
important. But before I got there, I remember going to... no, it was actually after I came here. So, I moved. Mom and Dad worked in the oil field. Mom did different things on the side. They decided to open a business. The business was doing great for 10 months. And then we hit a recession, and the business went under within a few weeks. We were done. Mom and Dad put everything into it, and we had to sell our homes, sell cars. We sold everything we could sell, and we packed up whatever was left, which wasn't a lot, and moved from Houston to Dallas and moved in with my grandparents for a little while. And I kind of bounced through a couple of different churches, but ultimately was at my cousin Tracy's church, which was a Pentecostal church, which was
Woo!
Yeah. It was more energetic than the church I grew up in. And it was really exciting and amazing. And I remember between that and the church my parents were going to, which is a church called Matthew Road in Grand Prairie, Texas, Both churches were in Grand Prairie, and I bounced between these two churches,
Okay.
which I think had a pretty significant impact on my life. But I remember going to camp one year, and at Falls Creek in Oklahoma, and Chris Tomlin, who was not the Chris Tomlin we know today.
Unknown worship leader.
He was new,
Chris Tomlin,
and Louis Giglio.
now literally referred to as like the worldwide worship leader.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Tomlin.
That guy, and Louis Giglio, who's now also a big deal, but back then he was just like the coolest youth
Cool
speaker,
young hip pastor.
right? And I remember them preaching a series, and he preached about what real surrender looked like. And I remember I didn't even stay for the whole message. I remember walking out of the worship area and standing next to a tree in Oklahoma. There was like there's not a lot. It's hot.
There's not a lot in Oklahoma.
Right.
There are a lot of trees in Oklahoma.
Not there weren't a ton at Falls Creek
Not
at
Falls
the time.
Creek. It's true.
But I stood by one, and I just remember thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to surrender my life to God. I really want. Whatever you want me to do, that's what I want to do. And I really intended to do that, but the spirit and flesh go to war with each other.
Sure.
And so through high school, I would say I had a relationship with the Lord. I don't doubt that I was a believer, but it was a lot
other
of
things to do.
Yeah, and it was just it was a thing we did. It was like, you get to some people, a lot of people get to a place where it's like, it's this obligation that I do, and I knew nice people there, and I was considered like a very spiritual person, but I don't know that I was doing a lot of spiritual. I certainly wasn't practicing spiritual habits. I just knew enough to sound spiritual all the time. I met a radiant, beautiful, glorious young woman named Crystal Danielle Sherrod. We'll do the I Met Jesus Crystal edition one day.
I'm so ready for that. I don't know if you know this. Yesterday, I pitched that Crystal should have been on this podcast.
She should.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
She wouldn't, though.
Missed an opportunity there.
But
I met her. She was Church of Christ. So I just want to put this together. Go ahead.
sorry. I was trying to mimic what silence would look like. It would sound like on a podcast, but it not be silent. So, just so you know, Church of Christ, Pentecostal, different.
Wildly different ends of the spectrum. So even at the Baptist church that I was going to as a kid, I mean, we were trying to become contemporant. And so we
just so y'all know, that's contemporary
and relevant
mixed which together. Equals not relevant.
And so we were doing the 7-Eleven choruses back in the day.
Shine, Jesus, shine.
Yeah.
Is that what we were doing?
He is exalted, the King. I exalt thee. Like those songs. What?
This might be an unpopular. That might be one of my favorite eras of worship music.
I get that.
But also I listened to.
I liked some of it too. It was, but listen, for people that think that worship music the way we have today is the way it's always been, not true.
And for some reason that it's only gotten better.
Also not always true. There was some good stuff.
That's for you, Jaden.
And so we were doing that kind of thing and playing instruments. And of course, Crystal's Church of Christ, they didn't have instruments. They all knew how to sing harmonies. They could read music and sing 4-part harmonies beautifully.
Yeah. So right now we're gonna invite Crystal in. She's
gonna sing a song. Not everybody. So yeah, we started dated for a very long time, like almost 5 years, I think.
You think?
Yeah, pretty sure somewhere in there. The 5-year mark is
right now is where I wish we had a camera on Crystal.
Yeah, I don't. I normally do because it's funny, but I just feel like she's staring at me to make sure I get everything accurate. But during this time, I would say,
yeah. What are you doing? So you're out of high school.
Well, yeah, she and I both went to church. But I don't know that we had a whole lot of spiritual conversations. I don't know that we were sitting there going, how do we follow God with our
honor God with our life together?
That wasn't as much a thing. And there was a couple of years of life where I barely ever went to church. Mom would reach out to me and want me to go all the time, and just wasn't going. And we were just doing a lot of times what young couples do, which is enjoying life, hanging out with our friends, going to movies, going out to eat. And then there was a Sunday morning that changed my life.
So tell me about that, because I mean that was a great tease, because like I have no idea where this is going, and I know a lot of your story. So like Sunday morning changed your life.
Yeah.
Is that just like a decision to go to church that morning, or
You've probably heard this part. You may just not remember. I don't know, but I normally, so I worked in I don't know what job I was having at the time, but Sunday would have been my day of rest, and by that meant
your day off to
sleep.
watch football?
Do nothing until something good came on television. Which, by the way,
Would've
in
been the
those
Cowboys.
days, nothing good came on television until at least noon.
Right.
It was just televangelists. Like Robert Tilton and Jim Baker and like all that kind of stuff, and not it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And so I remember waking up early on a Sunday, don't know why, turned on the television, all TV preachers, and it was terrible. And I was like, I couldn't go back to sleep, so I was like, if I'm going to watch a preacher, I'm just going to go to the church,
Yep.
and Mom will be so happy. She'll probably buy me lunch, and that'll be a win.
Get that.
And she'll be off my back for a bit. And that was really my motivation. And went to Matthew Road, and they had changed service times. I thought I was coming at the time the service was, but in the time away, they had decided to change times.
They didn't consult you on that for some reason.
I wasn't asked. But then, so I got to go to the college and career class, which is like a title we gave to young adults when we were like, I have no idea, just throw them in there together.
Yeah. And how old are you at this point? 19, 20?
I was probably, 19, 20 years old, somewhere around there. 21 maybe. And because it was shortly before we got married that all this happened. And so I remember going, and two guys walked up to me and asked me if I wanted to come to like a prayer meeting with college students that night. And I said, that I would love to. That would minister to my spirit so much.
Yeah, there's really nothing else you can say when somebody asks you that at church, right? Like,
Yeah, because I
do
had
you want to come hang out with us? We haven't seen you in.
there was zero chance I was going.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know these two guys at
Right.
all. And so no chance I was planning to go. I was just like, oh, wait, it's easier to say yes and get you off my back and then just never show up in your life again. And so that was the plan. And then they also said, we don't have a place to meet, and we heard you have room in your apartment. So I woke up that morning to get my mom off my back going to church, and had a group of college students by that evening in my apartment singing worship songs and praying. And that was it. Like, I was back. I wanted to serve God with my life, and all the things that there was a lot more that I've kind of glossed over, but there was so many things that had led up to that moment of going, I don't just want to claim to be a believer. Like, I want to live like it imperfectly, like all of us do, but I want to serve God. And it began the process that ultimately would end up with me in ministry. And I didn't plan to be in ministry at that point, but I knew I wanted to honor God.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about your story, and this will probably be a theme throughout, is just like I love hearing you talk about like people that have impacted your life, because I think that's so much, a lot of times how we continue to encounter Jesus throughout our life is you have this moment when you're 7 years old where you like meet Jesus and you surrender your life. But then I know this is true of my life, over and over, periodically God sends somebody and goes, or there's this moment like college students showing up in your apartment that you didn't plan for. And it's just another encounter with Jesus where you go, God's going, I'm here, I'm present, I have a plan. So this is probably, I don't know if this is an out of order question or not, but you mentioned some people in passing earlier, and it was your grandparents. But I've heard you talk about your grandparents before, and I would love to know like what their impact was on your faith, because I love that part of the story.
Yeah.
It's not a huge part of like my story. So when I hear like, man, generations of believers, I think that's such a cool thing. So
Yeah, I tell you what. Let me get to my grandparents kind of last, because I think one of the things that, like my journey to faith, there was some heavy lifting done by a lot of people.
Okay.
And they're probably by far one of the biggest influences. So I'll end with them because there's some heavy hitters there. But I think about, I mean, again, I talked about Rosa and Manuel Cerruti, and that name is burned into my brain forever. David McDonald and Pam McDonald. I don't know that I've ever talked about them in church, but they taught Sunday school, and they were. David was my RA director who taught me Bible stuff and took us camping and helped us connect with people. I rode around in a bus ministry. I wasn't part of the bus ministry. I rode with them to go pick up kids because I knew a lot of the kids. And Mom and Dad somehow got me in on that gig when I was young. And I met a guy named Henson Hill. Henson was one of my childhood best friends. He's a believer. He's still on his, doing his faith walk today. I connected with him again several years ago, and it was great just to hear that God's doing great stuff in his life, and that had a big impact in my life. Y'all aren't going to know these names, but like Rick and Beverly Alstead, Jay and Cheryl Westbrook, Wayne and Jolita Lee. There's just a pile of people like that. These were adults in my life that made a huge impact in my faith and helped me learn and helped me grow. Warren and Carson were the two guys that asked me to join the prayer meeting that day. That made a big impact in my life. Mom and Dad for sure. We never considered that not going to church was a choice.
Right, it's part of your life.
It was that's what we did. So you went, and so that was big for me. And I'm again, these are all kind of out of order, but Mark Martin was my youth pastor. If you're a big NASCAR fan, not the same Mark Martin,
not the NASCAR driver,
not number 6 in the Valvoline car, but that was. What?
You're in and out of voices today. It's just next level. So,
thanks. But
welcome to the Crossroads podcast.
Welcome. Mark Martin was huge. He was the first person that gave me a chance to lead worship horribly. Like I look back now and I go, he had to have gone home that night and looked at his wife and said, that was a mistake. But
that, I don't know. I hear that and I'm reminded of stuff in my story, and I'm sure there's moments for you where you're like, I'm so grateful for people that gave me a chance to go.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember I led worship here on Christmas Eve a cappella for 5 years in a row. And I'm like, that's the worst. And we're not Church of Christ. Just so you know, that was just because nobody else wanted to do
couldn't
it.
get a band.
Yeah. And I'm like, how did we not get after the first Christmas Eve and go man, we should never do that again. But just people that see you and go, I see something there. I'm going to give you a chance, even if it's horrible in retrospect. It's just
that was Mark.
So grateful for those people.
An incredible influence in my life. He also the first guy that gave me a chance to teach again, which was bad, real bad. And so I Tommy Tackett was a pastor in my life. Anyway, there's just been
we'll get to some of those people.
Eddie Meek was the first guy that told me I should be a worship leader after years later. Anyway, so there's just so many
we're
people.
Only halfway through your half a century life. So
yeah, thank you. No, I don't know. For me, when I think about I met Jesus, I go, I almost wish it was titled, I was introduced to Jesus by a crowd of witnesses.
Yeah.
Because that is really my story. It took a lot of people to get me to faith, and it took even more to get me into ministry because I was fairly resistant at first to going into ministry. But getting to grandparents, my grandma and grandpa, Owe and Reba, amazing, awesome people. I've told their stories in service. But, they were a part of a little Assembly of God church in Greenville, Texas. And they would drag us into this little
20 minutes from my house.
Yeah, backwoods. Just, tambourines and big dresses, big denim skirts back in the day. And you go in there, and I would, every time we went in, when the grandkids were there, it was this kind of church. Like, the plans were not set in stone. So you bring your grandkids
Sure.
in, all of a sudden you're like, "Has Jason got a song he can do for us today?" And so, you get up and sing a song, and they're like, just Tracy, which my cousin, Tracy got a verse she's memorized she wants to share with the church. And it was just that kind of an
Oh, yeah,
experience.
I love it.
And so it was cool because like it just kind of, I don't know, I think that influences more than I realized because it was such a participation thing, and it's what I strive for in our church today is be a participant. And then Mama and Papa, Joy and Carter Hart. I mean, for me, it was always Mama and Papa. Watching them love their family, prayer and talking about God was open. It was out there. You didn't go to Mama and Papa's house and wonder, are they Chris?
Right.
They seem like they might be Christian. Like you're gonna know. And if you went anywhere with Mama and Papa, especially with Papa, you don't get in a hurry because he would hold up an entire line of people at a grocery store ministering to the cashier, and the people behind him thrilled to wait. In Corsicana, Texas, I think they all knew him. And so it was like he was a walking evangelist. He was also a discipler. I said this a few weeks ago, like when he would give you counsel, it was like talking to Yoda. Like he wouldn't answer directly. He would give you like an obscure scripture reference or something like that. He would always aim it back to the Word of God and then let you wrestle with it. And I remember one time I was trying to make a decision about something I had agreed to do, and I was trying. It was taking a job at a church early in my ministry career, and he was in the hospital dying, and I had a very special relationship with him. And I walked in, and I was trying to decide about this position, and a lot of my family left the room. Like when I walked in, they knew he and I have a very close relationship. We needed a moment. And I told him, I said I was going to go to this church, and now my other church is really they're pressing hard for it, and he just gave me a scripture reference, and I didn't know it immediately off the top of my head. It's the first thing that I did when I left his room was look it up, and it was let your yes be yes and your no be no, and I was like, okay, and so we went and yeah, it was just stuff like that. He was always praying for me. If I was anything I was doing in ministry, I knew all my grandparents, my parents too. I mean, they were praying for me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've always said I have a boring testimony. And I don't mean that for real. I actually think it's an amazing testimony now.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. You weren't like stuck in a ditch because you were addicted to drugs. And
Right,
somebody
yeah.
rescued you. And
That was the thing. Like every
because
time,
like testimony in church,
yes,
somebody goes, share your story, and you almost expect this like dramatic, crazy thing that's happened. But for me, like when I hear your story, I go, man, that's so cool. Like I love hearing that like God has, in his sovereignty, orchestrated all these different people
Yep.
to put you on a journey to go, I'm going to make sure by the time you're a young adult that you have encountered so many people that love Jesus well, that when I ask you to go change the course of your life, that while it's not easy, it's gonna be easier because you've seen people serve him and love Jesus so well.
Yeah. I think today, between reality television and movies and podcasts, we're so pre-wired for drama
Sure.
that we think our testimony, in order to be impactful, it needs to always be also chaotic.
Right.
And there's an element to chaos in all of our story, but like it's like you're pre-wired to be like, I was on heroin and got into a car wreck, and I was paralyzed and never going to walk again, and I saw Jesus
Set me on fire.
right, yeah, that kind of thing, and those are amazing stories. Like I just want to say, like
Because God's power is
unbelievable.
just unbelievable, and he can do whatever he wants.
But to me, what's more amazing, maybe not more amazing, what's as amazing is generation after generation after generation of people, because I can go back to great-grandparents, to great-great-grandparents, and go, they all walked with the Lord. They were all faithful in their faith. They refused to not do what God wanted. They taught the truth, and they passed it to the next generation. And they didn't make apologies or excuses for it. They didn't buy into well, I'm going to let my kid decide what they believe at the
Right.
age of 4. They were like, no, we're going to tell them what's real and what's true and what's right and what's good for their life. And we're not
They
going to opt out.
infringed on their kids' beliefs.
100%.
Yeah.
They impacted
Yeah.
those
Yes.
beliefs. And because they were willing to step into it and they didn't take a passive role, they took an active role in turns out to be the most significant thing that they could ever teach me in my entire existence. They took an active role and didn't opt out of the most significant role of parenting and grandparenting and everything. They leaned in, and because of that, generations have been faithful. I mean, I go forward even like this last Sunday. My son preached his first sermon at Crossroads, and I just want my mama and papa and grandma and grandpa, and of course my dad was there, and I know it impacted him. That I'm hoping. I know. I mean, what Hebrews says, it's like you're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and I just go like, if Zach could have peeled back the curtain and seen the unseen world that was cheering him on,
Yeah.
it was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm going to jump back to your story too, because like I said, we're only halfway through your 50-year journey. So I want to think about man, I'm trying to like keep us on the rails so I also don't start crying.
Yeah,
so,
you're good. You're good. I got you.
Tell us about going into ministry, what that decision was like. You're about to marry Crystal, or you're married to Crystal.
Yeah.
And can you just tell us how you proposed to Crystal?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is. We're gonna bring some levity.
So I just want to say, this is I met Jesus, not how have I walked with Jesus my entire existence.
I know
That's
I know.
not the name of the podcast.
I know,
But
I know, but
it is a significant part of my Jesus journey.
I feel like ministry is a big part of your Jesus
Well,
journey,
it's huge.
especially for our church that you
Yeah.
serve so well. So
Yeah.
and you can like sum it up.
So the summary would be this: I knew I wanted to go. I'll start with Crystal. I knew I wanted to marry Crystal the moment I met her. I told her, I was like on our first or second date, that I was going to marry her. Like 2 weeks in, I remember she laughed at me, and I've been laughing for now almost 30 years because I won. I got her, and I've always said, if you want the best ones, you get them when they're younger, when they're young and dumb, and before they figure
Really?
this out. That's the best way to get them.
Keep talking.
And so, no, I told her I wanted to marry her. I think she thought I was maybe insane. But 5 years later, we were married. There's a lot in that story, but we got there, and it was cool. But just before we got married, I decided, after lots of people had said, you should be in ministry, you should be in ministry. I had a job where I was making good money, like real good money for my age. And everybody I knew in ministry was broke. And having gone through what I went through with my parents when they lost their business and we moved from Houston to Dallas, I was like, I do not want to go through broke. It wasn't an aversion to ministry. It was that I was putting, it really began, and this is a whole nother podcast. I had a wrestle with, and I can still wrestle with if I'm not careful, putting money in an incorrect place in my life.
Sure.
Because I just wanted the security of it. And it was because of what we experienced. I didn't need a ton of money. I just didn't want to have none of it.
Right.
And I lived anxious and fearful of that. And my wife also loves security. She's wired for security and safety. And
I was going to say loves money.
No. No, I don't think she hates money, but the money is neutral. Money's a tool that God can use, and I didn't see it that way at first. Yeah. And so I was like, everybody.
And there's an amount of money that'll give you security.
More. So early on, everybody I knew in ministry was broke, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go into ministry because I'm nervous about going into that life. But eventually, I just got to a place where I couldn't run from it any longer. Through a long series of things and people, and I had to go to Crystal. We were engaged, and we were going to get married. And I said, I know this isn't what you signed up for. Do you want to stay with me? And I thought, if I wouldn't blame her if she was like, that's not what I wanted in life. Sure. But fortunately, she's been the
She
longest.
was not young and dumb.
She's now been the longest ministry partner of my life, and just like super. I mean, she does incredible things here in ministry to this day. But she's like, okay, if this is what we're doing, we're going to do it. And we entered into ministry. Lost 2/3 of my income going into full-time ministry, like overnight.
Yeah.
Lost 2/3 of my income.
Checks out.
And yet God's always provided for us.
Of course.
It's not always been easy. Matter of fact, I'm preparing a message on stewardship that'll be here in a few weeks and tell a little bit of that story. But yeah, we did have a lot of needs, but we also got to watch God's provision through it. But yeah, that sent us into ministry, and ministry has sent us from North Texas to West Kentucky to South Texas to South Ohio and back to North Texas. We had a 20-year gap from this area, and now God has brought us back here for a decade at an amazing church that we are grateful to serve.
Yeah. So, yeah. Trying to figure out where we want to go here.
Okay.
So I'd just love to know, so kind of similar theme that we've talked about with the beginning of your story, and this is kind of how we'll wrap, is just like, I'd love for you to talk about how you encountered Jesus through different people over your ministry journey. So just obviously, just don't want anybody get their feelings hurt.
Sure.
Like, you're not going to be able to talk about everybody, but if there's a handful of people that because over that 20 years, also important to note, you have 3 children, biological children that you have raised and that are amazing, and
14 foster children and a lot of other stuff that has gone on in our life. So yeah.
So you just had several people impact that, and I'd just love for you to talk about how they modeled the character of Jesus and how you encountered them and encountered that over your time in ministry.
Yeah, I mean, since I've been in ministry, I got to there's a guy named Tom Ruane early on in life in my first church that I was part-time in before I'd left my job, and he prayed over me that I would never go to a big church, which confused me at the time. But he said, I'm not a prophet. He goes, I just want you to know this, Jason. He goes, I pray that you never go to a huge church. He goes, don't get me wrong, I want you to grow a church. But he goes, for whatever reason, God's placed it on my heart to pray for you that you would go to smaller places and grow them. And turns out that has been a mark of my ministry. And Tom was a big impact in that, and a huge encourager. He was a young guy in an old guy's body, and just super helpful in life. I think about people like Tommy Tackett when I was in Kentucky. Tommy's still rolling around doing his thing up in Princeton area of West Kentucky now. But he gave me freedom to try things and believed in me, even though I had very little experience at anything. He gave me an opportunity and gave me a chance. I remember when I came down to Livingston, that was where a lot of things changed for me. A guy named Rusty Schuler, who, I was doing good. People liked what I was doing, and that can be intimidating for a lot of people. Rusty wasn't intimidated by it at all. Rusty championed it, but he also channeled it. He was like, you need to get good at being discipled, and you need to get good at discipling and seeing things in others. I spent the first part of my ministry trying to figure out how to get Jason on a platform. And then after Rusty, it changed, and I started trying to figure out how do I help equip and platform as many people in their gifts as possible. And that was a huge shift in my ministry, and so much that came from Rusty, who was a guy that gave me opportunities and challenged me and called things out in me, and also encouraged me and pressed me to do things. And I could keep going through every church I've served in. It's been huge. If you want to go into just some Crossroads things, Pam Wilson was the first person I ever spoke to from Crossroads, and there was something about that conversation that has stuck in my head and my heart for more than a decade now. I remember my first conversation with you, and I don't know. I don't know that I would go. If back then on that, I don't know if it was Zoom, Skype. That was what it was back in the day, all the way a decade ago.
How did Skype miss the wave here?
I don't know. They were so ahead of everybody,
and then
just gone. Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
But yeah, like I don't know that either one of us would have thought on that Skype call that 10 years later we'd be still side by side in ministry and friendship and all that kind of stuff. And yet that has been a huge impact in my life over the last decade. Yeah, I mean, there's so many more, the Hatzenbuehlers, the Martins. There's a ton of folks today. All of our elders that serve currently, our staff has been incredible. So I think a lot of them look at me and go, he's got experience. He can teach us stuff, and certainly I hope God uses me in that capacity. But the truth is, I think I'm still in the position of learning more from all these people than they may learn from me, because I continue to find myself shifting in life and growing, and even now I'm in a season of like learning just continued trust and empowering leaders and helping try to launch ministries and seeing things different. So, that, and I could probably name 100,000 other people that are in that journey. But those are some big names in my life.
Yeah, I think so. The way I want to wrap is just to ask you this question: if you were talking to somebody that's like, I feel like a theme in your life is just like continued surrender, and like it's somebody that's watched you over the last 10 years. It's been super inspiring to me because like I remember you coming here, and like even I was super young then. I'm still young. I was super young 10 years ago.
I don't know about young now.
I mean, I was younger than Zach 10 years ago, so I was pretty young
back then. Yeah,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm
just saying today.
When even that, like I remember when you coming here, like it made no sense to me, but like watching you, like mathematically, it made no sense.
Yeah.
Practically, it made no sense, but watching you surrender.
I came from a church of a few thousand people with 40-something staff members to a church with one part-time staff member and me, and not very many people and no financial resources. And on paper, I've said this in church, but like on paper, people that I knew were like, you're committing career suicide.
Right.
But God has other plans.
Yeah, and the thing that I've seen in you is like, and I think about like when y'all decided to do foster care and like what that, like as a young adult who was about to get married and watching y'all go, man, you're getting to a phase in your life where your kids are close to grown and out of the house, and you're going, I'm going to surrender to what God has and embrace this whole nother life. So that's the thing that I love about you and Crystal. And I would love for like somebody's going, what does it look like to surrender? And is scared to go like, God, I'm willing to do whatever. Like, what would be your encouragement to them?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think about things like foster care, and you know, we were getting and now are to an age when so many people are like, oh, finally, it's us time, and consistently, God has called us to be willing to give up some of that and go like, we're gonna open our home. And when you do foster care, it's not like signing up to serve in kids ministry, which is a big deal, by the way, and people should do it.
Yeah.
But that's a few hours of your week, whereas fostering a child is
all your life.
It is like, that is like having a kid. It is every moment of every day where it's a part of your life. I think the thing that I would say that God has and continues to work out in my life when it comes to surrender is that we want so desperately to negotiate a conditional surrender to the Lord.
Yeah.
And he is not interested in a conditional surrender. Like, God, I will surrender. Like when people come into ministry, I always ask them the same question. And they're like, what are you surrendering to? And they're like, I'm surrendering to student ministry or to worship ministry. And I go, that's conditional surrender. Like, you need to go, I'm going to give God my life.
Yep.
And because if I had stipulated, God, here is all I'm willing to do, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today.
Right.
I wouldn't have served in most of the things that I've done. We wouldn't have opened our home to foster care. Like, none of that was in the plan.
Right.
But when the plan is, God, I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I'm going to trust it to you, then there is no conditional surrender. You just go on a surrender. Now, I'm not saying that I've walked through that perfectly every moment of my life. Absolutely not. But that's the goal, is to go, I'm not the one dictating what this looks like. I'm not the one in charge. We have the, it's the Jesus take the wheel mentality, which if you think about that, it's bad theology. Sorry, country music fans. And who is it? Carrie Underwood?
It is Carrie Underwood. Good job.
Okay,
Everybody
there we
give it
go.
up for
I
Jason.
got one.
We need the button right now that's like applause.
Yeah. But if you think about that, like Jesus take the wheel implies that you're the one driving. And
It also implies that you ever had the wheel.
right. But even if you go like, well, I'm not going to have the wheel. I'm gonna sit in the passenger seat. I go, that's still bad theology because now you become this like person who can reach over and grab the wheel if you need to. And that's really not what surrender looks like. And you go, well, I'll sit in the back seat. And you go, I don't know how many people you've ever had in your back seat that try to constantly tell you how to drive, where you have the back seat drivers that are constantly telling you where you should go, what you should do.
Wyatt's telling me all the time.
There you go. And I go, that's not even good theology. I think the better theology, if you're using the car analogy, is you pull over at some point on the side of the road, you get out of the car, you hand Jesus the keys, you walk back to the rear of your car and have him open the trunk.
Right.
And you get in and he shuts the trunk and you just go wherever you're going to go. It's not my input that you need. You're smarter than me. You're greater than me. You're wiser than me. You know the best path for my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going for the ride. You have the wheel. You have the car. You have the direction. And my voice is going to be in the trunk.
I love that. I love that just challenge of surrender for everybody. So thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah.
And I know like we could do, because you're so old, we could do I'm at Jesus Jason edition part 2 and part 3 and part 4, but I just appreciate you sharing your story
47
today.
part series.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for sharing today. It was super fun.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yep.
Well, for Wes and Jason, thanks for listening to the Crossroads podcast. You can join us next week, or if you're behind,
In a couple
in
seconds.
a couple of seconds.